A very good evening to everyone. I'm Neha, Ambassador of Change for GETI, that is Global Education and Training Institute, an idea about which we just saw in the previous video that we played. And today I'm very honored to have amongst us Mr. Aaron, who is the director and founder of Aaron Public Speaking Studio based in Hong Kong, China. And Sir has joined us today and he'll be talking about Be Empathetic, Be Amazing, which is basically emotional combating depression. An idea which I think will be very useful for our teachers and students who are watching and who will eventually watch. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and thank you so much, Sir, for joining us this evening all the way from Hong Kong, I guess. Thank you so much, Sir, for joining.
Very much for your invitation, though.
Thank you, Sir. And I've added your presentation, Sir. You can, take us through it.
Okay. So thank you very much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Aaron. I'm really honored to be sharing this Be Empathetical, Be Amazing workshop, which is really highlighting some sort of maybe some problems, highlights that has been ongoing for the past 15 years that the global economy, global world itself is actually declining in terms of feelings for others. And that's where this workshop begins. And hopefully, it helps every individual from all ages to really start being more empathetical to people around them. And being empathetical actually even improves work efficiency and also productivity within that. So, a little bit about myself. I'm the founder, as you mentioned just now, my introduction of Aaron Public Speaking Studio. I'm also a TEDx coach, corporate trainer, also a world champion in terms of impromptu speaking back in 2019. That time, I was a really introverted person. Till this very day, I'm still. But then I make a lot of different changes due to empathetical trainings and let me becoming more of myself and discovery of something new. So this is more of a self-reflective journey and hope this journey will really help everyone who's listening today. So there are a couple of things I'll be highlighting for today. Four key points. One is journey to empathy, which is basically talking about some sort of my personal journeys and also some highlights that might relate to you in some way. And then benefits of empathy, which will also really talk about why is it important to have it? What is the difference? What's the definition of empathy in different stories? And finally, I would like to talk about the ABC steps, whereby there are some practical steps, values itself that you can take away from this workshop and apply it into your real life. And if you want to stay on for the last one, which is values and takeaways, I have a couple of quotes that will really help you to reinforce this theory, ideas, and apply it to anyone around you because it's time to start being empathetical. So this one is first of all, it's really understanding about what it means by empathy. I just use this comic strip that I managed to find on Google, and this actually really stands out to me. What is really empathy? Now, empathy is really about capacity to feel about people's feelings. Now, there is a key difference between sympathy and empathy, and I will discuss it in the next slide. But empathy is more like really understanding and supporting each other. No matter which age group you are, you may have ups and downs in life. And when you're in the down stage, there might be many so called friends or people around you that may leave you in your own distress state. Trust me, I have been seeing a lot of different situations like that. And I have been one myself, being stuck in that loop where I need help and no one was there. I wish that there was someone there. And this is whereby, if you are there, it makes a difference to that person who is receiving empathy. It takes lots of courage and even needs you to step out from your comfort zone. Being proactive is also one of the methodologies that we apply in empathy. And when you apply empathy itself, you're being the really amazing person that makes a change for someone's life. You never know how tiny it can be, but it is that amazing value that you bring to that person. That person from downside, it actually goes up back to his normal state. And some people call it a superpower. For me, I think it's like more like everyone has this gift and talent to be empathetical to people. So there are different types of empathy. One is called the affective ones, which is basically really responding to how people's emotions and how you really respond appropriately. When they express their feelings, it's a form of trust, it's a form of conversation. And if we are being very cold to that person, we are just giving them cold chills, that person might not trust anymore of sharing their feelings. They do not know who to share. And if bottled up, it can even lead to potential illnesses, even depression, which is one of the top 10 potential issues that cause people's death in some way. There's also whereby some people will be naturally talented in feeling people's feelings, like we call it as stepping into people's shoes. And this is whereby stepping into people's shoe is like more like is can be trained, it can be felt, it can be learned. But to some people, it's natural talent. They can really feel because they have been trying to put themselves into a shoe or may have experienced before. And finally, the last one is really about the response. It's more like instinctive. They respond accordingly to what they see. If there's a sad friend, okay, this is what I would do. Now, this can be also a habitual thing because it's about awakening your awareness in there. And why is it important for empathy in terms of all ages and all age groups? Because you do not know what is happening in the world of someone beside you, even your closest friends. And the very first step of acting is to just to care. Not everyone will be that willing to share their stories or their feelings. I'm an introvert. I spent many, many years just to get my feelings out. I don't know who to trust. I may be even left out in some way. So let's break it down for empathy and sympathy, as I mentioned earlier. Now, there are different scopes here, and I'm just using one of the very nicely diagnosis and from N group, which is really relative to breaking down to very specific spectrums of empathy. Now, first step is pity is more like expression of feelings. Oh, I care. I'm so sorry for you. And that person can walk away, literally. More sympathy is like I'm trying to reach a consensus and relatability. I feel for you because I have been there, but it's just expressing. Yeah, I know that you know. So, so that is really about what is missing that reach the depths of emotions within the person who is suffering from it. Now, the difference between sympathy and empathy is that one is I feel for you, and the other one is I feel with you. With is being there for you. It's like when you have any feelings like unhappiness, just give me a call. I'll be there. This is a difference because there is an action within it and also a promise and acknowledgement that I do care. It's more of a credibility adding on to just talking. And that's what really helps people who are maybe suffering from different depression states or maybe feeling a bit vulnerable. It can happen in school. It can happen in even anywhere. Even cyberbullying is also one of the things that you might get hurt from it, from all those words, phrases, because you care. And that's why it really needs to have this understanding of empathy itself. And finally, the last one is compassion. Compassion is more like a transformative one. It's also an instilled ability to have no boundaries of how much you can be feeling for this person. Compassion is more like you can do it with anyone, even strangers. And this is one art for a lifetime. Because once this compassion is within you, you're being kind and being feeling for others, people will also start feeling for you. And this is something missing for the past 15 years in most of the business because of personal interests, personal values, and personal benefits. And it's not just for businesses, so even for school kids, they might even feel that is something to be given. People are expected to be nice to you, but in reality, it's just a stroke on their face. It's like it's definitely not happening like that way because of the chemistry, because of the actions that you do, because of the labels that they put on you. And finally, the worst thing of all is they never even bother to know about you. They're only just venting for their own feelings. Maybe they're having enough stress and finding someone as a punching bag. So now, a little bit about what my journey about to empathy would be. This is a bit me, in a nutshell for what I've been doing these days. I do a lot of workshops. I'm also a keynote speaker around the world. I do over by now I already did over 8,000 to 9,000 different workshops globally, and I also help around 50,000 every single year, individuals alike. Because I always believe that the power of public speaking really helps anyone, and anyone can use public speaking to communicate effectively to people and also communicate within themselves in terms of reflection and tapping into their own potentials and inner talents. So these are me in a nutshell for in the present. But in the past, I would never thought about this being possible because I'm just a very reflective person. I don't like to socialize. I simply trap my emotions within. I lost a lot of people that I care. And when I said loss, it means it doesn't mean that I don't try to grab them. It means that they have moved on to the next world, maybe because of age, illness, disease. And I've been surrounded by a lot of different things like that. I even left home or lived on the streets for 6 months to 8 months because of personal reasons, because of feelings. I want to be free. I didn't know how harsh this world is. I just want to survive. I've experienced those. And because of all these encounters, when I am around the streets. This is only just a few examples when I'm just walking in the streets. I can just randomly know people. I get to know their stories, and their stories become my wisdom. And that explains the PowerPoint purple background, because purple represents to me as a form of wisdom. And empathy is a form of awakening wisdoms for everyone. And throughout all these stories, it helps me to build me for who I am today. And another incident that happens to me that really affects me is the loss of two person that I do care about the most, my grandpa and my grandma. And you see a cartoon character from my grandpa is because I don't even have an actual photo of him. He is someone who inspires me a lot. He taught me the art of empathy because in the past I never really care about others. I care about myself. I care about my own feelings because no one listens to me, so I just care. I was like a little monkey in some way, trying to get attention but didn't get the right attention. When someone got something like that, I just simply just really want to get it. I just like really cry for it, or maybe just like I just want it in a very rebellious manner. But my grandpa always inspired me and said, "Look, there are many things in life that you have to fit yourself into people's shoes." And I ironically simply just replied me, "You mean like holding up like this shoe, like a slipper, for example?" No, he correct me with a joking manner. He just like fit yourself into people's shoes and start feeling how they feel. Maybe that's the reason why you have been stuck introvert because you lost trust for people because they don't communicate with you well. You just based on how they respond instead of reflecting on how I should have response in different ways. So alongside these two individuals had taught me to fit into people's shoes, also always sharing how my actions affected their feelings. These two have more fun, but their words of wisdom has been helping me to be much more empathetical to people around me. Even the words that I say, even the audience that you're watching right now. I really hope that this message will get across to you. I'm here with you. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask me about that. Now, this is what happens. One of the major blows in my life. Other than just now losing two important individuals, I have been also a victim of being bullied. Introverts do happen to situations. And yeah, we kind of got it. Why being bullied? Because sometimes in Asian countries, they have quite a lot of stress and studies, and some people are tiger moms or tiger parents. They may put their pressures or expectations on the kids, and the kids do not know where to go, and they just use their actions to apply to people who might be a punching bag or not responsive to whatever you do. So I was one of them. And this actually traumatized me for 4 years in secondary schools. And with that in mind, I even like thought about ending my life that time. I have no one to trust, no one to talk to other than to my two best friends, who are unfortunately they are also being victims of bullying. Now, this is whereby I started to be aware the importance of being empathetical, the feelings, because at this age I thought, or at least I was presumingly to think that education in all ages from primary school to secondary school, or maybe university, there will be something that really focus on imparting the art of empathy to people to start feeling for it. There are counselors in schools. Some schools which are fortunate, they have counselors and that actually works further. But it becomes more like a label of potential sickness or disorder. And students do not like to be labeled in that way. I get it totally. And we have to fit into their own generation's shoes. We call it as like a generation gap, whereby sometimes the older generation might not really understand what the current generation is feeling. Like the last time I had a chat with one of my students who is around like 5 to 6 years old, and she was telling me a very crazy story about what she had done. And I thought that no 6 years old would have done that. Like literally, she just walk out of on the streets and start talking to people and interviewing people. Like I wouldn't do it if I were you. Parents would tell us, "Please take care of yourself. Don't run away and don't talk to strangers." And she is the one that's like breaking all the boundaries, talking to strangers, but also protecting herself. Some students are quite smart these days, and they also feel why their parents are so concerned about that, and they fit into the parents' shoes. And we can learn from these kids, learn from the students in those generations that really tells us about, hey, there's something worthy to learn from each other. So there's one really key point here on empathy itself. Is sometimes because we put our expectations on others, we lose some part of empathy within itself. We start to put our own personal expectation as the results or milestones that we want our kids to really achieve or even others to achieve in business contexts. It's just subtle, but you never really know it until some people start talking to you about that. And there it happens to why the trigger of the start of empathetical training workshops I've been doing for the past 2 years is because recently a friend of mine has passed away. And it's because of an organization which simply is a nonprofit, simply just don't care about her plague and being ignorant and responsive because it doesn't affect their own personal interests. And because of all this handlings and treatments of a so-called ethical organization, she committed suicide. Now, this has been a thorn in my heart for the past few months. I never expected that happen. I was there all the time to really care about her, but I wasn't in that city that she was in. I may have changed or make a difference if I'm there, listen to her stories, be there with her, and maybe even just be through with her on the situation. And many people like her that is happening around us, but we never know. My question for everyone here is, do you really know how everyone's life is going through right now? If not, really spend some time to start caring about people around you. I'm not saying that you don't. but an action, a word, a phrase may reveal more stories for you to utilize these feelings of empathy to really help people to go through their difficult times, especially during the pandemic. There are more cases than ever before because it affects jobs, it affects careers, even disrupts education itself. And this should be one part of the curriculum that should be enforced into schools and education because it's one of the basic things of why we humans interact. We are people with feelings and emotions. And this is a lifelong lesson. It's not just I taught you and that's all. It takes time to really apply and start feeling for it. You do not want the kids to grow up and then become very cold because it's more for personal interest. That's not the society that we want. It even ruins companies' working efficiency and stuff. And that's why, like, companies like Google, Adobe, and many others are starting to focus on empathetical leaderships in companies' trainings nowadays because it start to get detached. People should start caring instead of just focusing on what they do. Because when you do care, there's always things that comes around, and you'll be wondering, like how. There's simple methodologies to really do it. Some really fake ones, but I can give more examples to really help everyone on. And the key thing about empathy itself is to focus on well-being of others and yourself. Many people think that things empathetical to people is I care about them more, everything, well-being. But usually when you focus on well-being for others, my second question is what about yourself? You get burned out one day. You have your own personal commitments. You have your work. You have a lot of life around you. Who's going to care about you? Now, it's also requiring you to also be self-empathetical to yourself. Now, because this special power is not going to be lasting forever, it is like a sustainable energy resources. You have this life skills, but it needs to have enough energy. When you give to others, sometimes because you give too much on the others, you get a little burnout. And that's why it's about exchanging. If everyone can be empathetical to each other, the energy will be sustained and everyone start caring, things will improve, and trust, chemistry, and everything else start to come in place. It just need the first person to start the first step. So it can be even applied in anywhere, uh, even in person, online, even in functions that has recognitions of imparting speeches around the world, even metaphors or avatars or holographic. Take your pick. Because the first thing of empathetical is really doing about actions, and actions can be through words that you say or speech or even like little gestures, etc. It takes a tiny bit to really start caring. Now, the fourth ABC, we call it as ABD. We start with number A. The ABC methodology is to help you to start feeling much more empathetical. A starts with appreciation. When is the last time that you start appreciating that you're being alive? Now, that's one thing. When's the last time that you start appreciating the place around you for its beauty, not for its other, maybe negative constitutional factors? When do you appreciate its lasting value or beauty? Appreciation is something said easily but can be hard to be accomplished. If you're wondering how to start appreciating things, you can start having a piece of paper and write down 10 things you appreciate that you have done today or maybe others have done for you. Because things are not given. It's not given to be nice to you or start caring about you. And when you start writing about appreciation, If the more you write about, maybe 10, when you write about 10, think about, okay, there are 10 things I'm appreciating today. Now your response is also doing 10 things for others and yourself. Make sure to include yourself. Like even like cooking a scrambled egg for your kids. It's something to be appreciated for their smiles. I appreciate your smile that really motivates me to cook a little breakfast for you. It can be that tiny. But the condition is it's not just writing down, it's also expressing in words that they can hear. One part that's missing for appreciation is not being able to reach the ears of the person that does such a thing. This has been undermined for, I would say, centuries. Not many people around us these days are doing such a thing. It's only until trainings they start to be aware about this. But maybe after like a couple of months, they may have forgot about it. And this is why I hope that this can be much more long lasting than that. The more you act, the more actions that you do to really express this is one way to really help people to know that their gestures is making that difference. And you can also make that difference too. Number two, as I mentioned in the whole workshop just now, I've added this word called be there. Always be there. This might be two simple words. It's like as simple as I like you, I love you, I care for you. But be there. People can visualize that you are there. I be there for you. Now, when you say this, it's a promise to yourself and a promise to others. Sometimes we have thought about the mental methodologies of, hey, when you make a promise, don't make empty promises or light promises. Be there is an action that you know that you won't do it. If he or she is a friend that you do care about, at least start with a care. You do care about. And think about the moments when if you lose him or her because you aren't there. You might have this regret in your entire life because you could have made a difference. Be there doesn't mean that 24 hours. Okay, it doesn't. Many people are thinking about, hey, be there. You need to have 24 hours of time slot to be fully committed to that. No, be there can be loads of different various actions. Might be tiny but effective. Be there. I was there with my friend when he was feeling really really down. Sometimes he had like a little kitty cat, which is a reader recording. I sent it to him. I don't know why I bought the kitty cat. Maybe I remember that he likes his kittens at his house. And this recording is a recording of all the voices of all our best buddies. And we'll say, no matter when the life is down for you, we will make it back up. The voice are unanimous in that recording. And this voice is there for that person. You never know that this friend of mine is still carrying this kitty till this very day because it becomes part of his life. When life is down and we have all our own schedules or priorities and we are not necessary there, that item is there. It can be in item formats, it can be through actions, letters, or maybe even just a call. And that be there. If you can really be there, then be there. If you can't really be there, do something that can represent you, even in times of your own personal busy schedules. It does make a difference to people who are listening on how you are caring about them. They can feel it, they can see it, they will know it. It's just like kids. For students, for many kids, we always try to put our expectations on our kids. We want them to be as amazing as possible. I understand that. But there will be some people who cannot withstand the pressure. I remember there was one incident whereby, which is a friend's mom, my friend had actually passed away on that one, wrote a letter to her mom. Yeah. And then literally, that that night, she passed away. So the letter says that, Mom, I had enough. I simply do not know how to go on. I've been stressed by my schoolmates, stressed by my teachers, stressed by you. I know you all want me to do well, but I couldn't. No one was there for me when I felt sad. It's somewhere along that lines. If their parents will be aware, have awakened a stronger empathetical sense of knowing how their kids are doing, they will not be regretful to this very day. Are you willing to be that regretful for the rest of your life? So for something that you could have done at this stage. 3, communicate. Now, communicate as an art, as a public speaker, and even anyone can speak. But do they really know how to communicate effectively? There are many different platforms that we do to communicate and share the values of empathetical and this art itself. For me, I prefer like TED or major platforms that really impart on the knowledge or wisdom to everyone, or maybe like having a one-to-one conversation to that person. That person feel valued, and in my opinions and thoughts, they are being listened to. Communication is not just about speaking. Communication is a two-way talk. One talk, one listen. And many people are failing on the art of listening these days because of this listening part is really being undervalued because everyone has their own something to say. I know you have lots of important things to share. Now the thing is, you have important things to share. They have important things to share. Who is the moderator in this conversation? There's no one. One side talks, message do not reach across. Communication is a two-way mechanism. One talks, one listens. Please remember, communication is just not self-talk. And maybe some contests or some sort of light platforms that you can really do these little actions. Or maybe with through a course or through maybe TikTok, a very popular platform, you can even share your values and foster. Who knows? You might be affecting and transforming someone across the world at different parts of the world. I remember one time when I was doing a keynote and I didn't know that one of my speeches actually transformed someone. I had a recruitment emails, or rather saying more like a collaboration email from one of the very big Fortune 500 companies. And that person says, "Hey, Aaron, are you open to an interview? I know you're not looking for a job right now, but I really love to talk to you." And I was like, that's- I never really know about this company that much. So why would this person talk to me? So I just go there, really make the appointment and meet this individual, very kind-hearted individual. He was smiling at me, and I was sitting there. I was like, "Hey, what's this about?" Very chilled and cool because like it's about conversation getters. It's not a formal interview. It's more like casual ones. And he was saying that, Aaron, are you interested to really teach us about public speaking? I was like, how do you really know and trust me in terms of because like I barely know that person. And he has seen my talks before, and he was one of the audience 15 years ago. I never know that 15 years, that long, really changed someone to reach out to me like that. And I was like, hey, okay, 15 years. So what was the workshop I was talking about? Because I cannot really remember. There are too many workshops I've done. And then he was saying that you were really talking about your own personal story and how really it impacted people. It really reaches me. And I feel for you. And I know that you feel for me because we are in the same clique. And that speech motivates me to overcome my own personal obstacles in my own schools. And that's what it forges him today. So never underestimate the power of communications, even if it's just a simple gesture. Think about what you say to people when it's perceived by others. Would it affect them? Would it downgrade them, degrade them, or would it elevate them? Every single word that you say is listened, broadcast, or even perceived by others based on their own personal understanding, upbringing, and thoughts. That's one saying in terms of communication is this: we must not judge and assume that we know what the world is truly is. A speaker has to eliminate bias, standardizations, labels on people to make a more effective communication. When you start putting your own bias and skepticism into what you say or communicate your expectation because you just want it to be, people are feeling unnecessary stress, anxiety. They feel that you are not with them. You're just forcing them to do things that you like. And that is one of the deal breakers for communication these days. So when you communicate, think about the platforms that you use, the way that you use. Are you listening? Are you communicate effectively? Are you choosing the words that sparks positivity instead of negativity? Are you putting your own values into people's values instead of letting them have a choice? Are you really feeling for them? What are the words that resonate with them at that stage? This is an art that everyone can learn from. Communicate with empathy. And finally, the last one, other than all those three factors, is about the discovery. Empathy is more of a discovery for yourself and discovery for others, other people's stories. So some people who might not feel empathetical at all, or putting themselves into people's shoes, like, why are they feeling like that? I don't get it. Don't worry, you are not alone. There are many others who might not be able to feel exactly what some people are feeling. So it's about kicking a little start, about putting yourself into people's shoes. If you don't get it, you can ask people around who felt that and try to understand. As long as you have the power for discovery, really discovering, like, hey, there's a person that's sitting down, very gloomy with a sad face. Hey, I want to change, like, other than caring, I want to discover their stories. Curiosity is also one part to lead to conversation breakers and also starting off letting people feel connected with emotions. Discovery is one art, and we usually have a saying that says, always stay curious. We When we stay curious, we try to refine, improve, innovate things. When we have these wordings, lots of positive, lots of ideas comes to mind. There's also lots of different studies and research that a positive person can start to think about lots of different ideas and sparkles. Whereas when you're thinking start about negative wordings, like when I see something very gloomy, I start like avoiding it. Things, the feelings wise will also be transferred to you. That you start to feel like I'm avoiding, I'm feeling a bit unhappy, I'm bottling up, I'm not trusting, I'm putting protective shells around me. And this is making it hard to people to really care for you, feel for it, feel with you. So when I also see like different kids in schools, some of the schools that ask me to do trainings in terms of empathetical is I always try to discover the talents. and discovering the talents and also doing different methodologies like DISC, this, or analogram, or different things that really sparkles conversations. Maybe those methodologies are not 100% foolproof, but at least it starts conversations, it starts people's curiosity, and start people putting themselves into shoes. If they were them, they would not have felt that strong. So it's about appreciating themselves for who they are. Kids can start learning from when they are young. And this skills is really important, especially in the future years when when they grow up and when they start really helping people around them. Feeling compassionate, feeling caring, and feeling empathetical to their colleagues really motivates the whole team spirit. Lots of statistics have shown and proved that being an empathetical leader can really helps to improve productivity by at least 30-40%. And it's not just that. It also creates friendship, deeper friendships. Because there's something that says whatever goes around comes around. You start doing that, everyone notices it. And when you're down, this energy comes back and start caring about you, start being there for you. This is something that is very special and an amazing special power for everyone to learn. It's within yourself. Are you willing to really tap into the skill set? And finally, last thing I would say, if you remember A, B, C, Ds, A, start appreciating things. Start appreciating people for who they are without any bias. Appreciate things for its own natural value. It can be people, it can be things around you, it can be maybe from stories that you've seen on TV, or maybe hearing from someone else. Start appreciating things. B, be there. Always be there. When I say be there, it doesn't mean that you have to 100% be there. There are many ways to replace being there. It's just one way to really help this person to move through his own obstacles or her obstacles. C. What is C? Communicate. Communicate effectively to people. Communicate doesn't mean that it's just talking to people. You have to listen to and listen for key points. Observe their gestures as they speak. The words that they choose actually reveal something that they are ongoing with their life right now. Are we willing to spend some time, apart from our own personal interests, to be our own personal motivation? And finally, D, a discovery. Discovery, stay curious. Discovery is one of the many traits that reduce fatigue and burnouts because you're curious about things. Think about when you're young. Everyone was young before and they start trying new things, discover new things. They know which one they don't like, they know which one they like. And then the more they discover, the more amazing everyone can be. So, my final takeaway for everyone is that empathetical communication is something can be mastered, something can be learned. It just needs some little time to discover yourself and discover people's feelings around you, even discovering people that you think you know, but in actual fact, you don't. I like everyone to sing that in for the next 10 seconds. Is there someone that you know that you can apply this empathetical communication, the feeling of being empathetical, so that people can be embraced in your care and being there for them? Who knows? Because of one action that you do, you can make their own world a different world that they are meant to be. That's all for today.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I was here. I was just trying to get back. Thank you so much, sir, for your very descriptive presentation on the importance of empathy. And I really like how you started from the very beginning as to what empathy is, and going on to various ways we can instill empathy. But before we conclude, since I mentioned that we have a huge audience which is from the education fraternity, so if you could highlight the role that teachers can play in the lives of students, so that they can help students be more empathetic, and also how teachers can be empathetic, the role of teacher training, maybe in getting teachers to be empathetic so that students can be
Mhm.
empathetic at the end of the day.
So for teachers itself, they can actually apply this skill set that they can put case studies or situations that are commonly seen in school sites, like bullying. This is typically one thing that is seen, or people who might be feeling sad and unable to express themselves. They start to notice some typical signs, and when teachers are being trained on observation skills related to this, they can be slightly more proactive as they're adults. They have experienced this before, and by
Absolutely.
imposing like this kind of stimulation into them, they can be much more refined and more acute to the sense. They also can fit into something like in teachers training itself. We also did something called the NLP, neuro linguistic programming. We teach them in terms of the feelings for others, how to help the teachers to smoothen their emotions too. The teachers are the best guides in school. The students have no one else to look up to other than the teachers and the principals. So the teachers have a very important value in mastering this skill set, because I was a teacher myself. I know how the kids are feeling when the students are coming in. One of the times I noticed a kid was really really sad and say, "Hey, are you up for ice cream?" No, it's just a little action that makes a world like, hey, teachers start caring about me. And then after which I start to know that, oh, something happened at home today. They had a quarrel, and she has been feeling very unhappy for the rest of the day. She was like so demotivated to attend classes. And I just a little say observing her cues, observing her little gloomy face, and then yeah, it's just about how you phrase it and how you express your care through different actions. So the teachers can
Absolutely.
really put that into their curriculum, whereby they can put different scenarios, or maybe form a group that's like a special care group, that if there are students that is feeling for facing these dilemmas, they can also learn with the counselors too. I know that counselors are specializing in this area, but the teachers can also learn this art from them because they are the professionals in handling emotions. It's not giving the teachers with an additional lifelong ability to become a counselor in a different occupation, but being having this skill set really helps to reach out to the students and guide them through the whole ordeal. Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thoughts. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and for enlightening, our students and teachers and everyone I think who is going to watch this, on the importance of being empathetic, which equates to being amazing. And I am empathy is a subject, after my own heart, and I really feel that, as humans, we need to, be more empathetic so that we can create a more empathetic world. Right now, this is something that we really need at the end of the day. Well, once again, sir, thank you so much for joining us today, this evening, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much, though. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.